Welcome to the Carl Jackson Show. This is your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. Today, we're going to be talking about Biden's proxy war against Israel. Guys, I don't think I'm being hyperbolic in saying this. Biden has done everything he can, in my opinion, to undermine our Western ally, Israel. Guys, I do not want to get into a war. We don't need to help or a war in the Middle East. We don't need to help Israel per se in the Middle East. We need to unleash Israel in the Middle East because their enemies are our enemies. We both share Western ideals. America is a little more conservative, I guess, than Israel, but I'm not sure if that's the case, given the leadership that we have and the decadence that we have inside of the United States at that point. Nonetheless, for the most part, we share Western values. We share a sense of Judeo-Christian Christian values, although they are a socialist country. We are we're a mixed we have a mixed economy. We're both, sad to say that we're a mix of socialism, basically, and capitalism, but we still claim to be a free country. We still strive for it. We still fight for it. So anyway, that's what all of us on the right are trying to do leading up to 2024. So we're going to get into this. There's plenty of news stories that I do want to share with you. Some of them I will get more in depth in a later podcast, but I have not taken on this Iran Israel issue. So I want to take it on. And again, I want to take it from a different perspective. I do believe that Joe Biden, and I'm not saying it to be hyperbolic. I'm not saying it for clicks. I do believe that Joe Biden has waged war against Israel. There's some things that I understand some of you might say, well, Carl, he's just appeasing his base. Is he? I mean, his base, his radical base. And I do feel that way at times. But when you consider the numbers of the most the most crazy, the commies in his base, they're not that plentiful. It's just that the Democrat Party does not have the courage to stand up for them, up to them, unless you're talking about Senator John Fetterman. Man, that guy has been, insane. There's obviously, I'm going to disagree with him probably 70% of the time, but when it comes to the issue of Israel, corruption in Washington, D.C., that guy has been standing strong. I would have never guessed that. When he came into the Senate, he was virtually brain dead. Now I'm glad to have even though it's a different voice, a resounding voice from the left that is willing to talk common sense or speak common sense at times. All right, so let me just give you some of the news that is out today as I go down to the tip sheet. Again, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. We're on Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Feel free to comment on any of those locations. We'll try to get back to you. I certainly will try to respond to as many as I possibly can. So subscribe to the podcast. Also, wherever I am on social media, at the Carl Jackson Show is where you can find me. I think it's on Getter and Twitter where it's at Carl Jackson Show because you can't use as many letters. But nonetheless, if you type in at the Carl Jackson Show, you will be able to find me. So one of the things let me just go ahead and start off. Before I get started, I do want to talk to you about wealth protection research because the Biden administration, all of this stuff exists. All of this stuff, we try to break down different news stories. We're talking about this, we're talking about that. We're talking about the culture. We're talking about foreign policy. We're talking about domestic policy. You have to understand when it comes to the left, everything works together. You can connect the dots. They want to make you poor, right? They want to destroy Western values. All of that is destroying Western values. Your ability to not be able to go out and kill it and bring it home or drag it home, so to speak, or your ability to be able to defend your own elections or have your own beliefs and not be censored and stuff like that. Stuff that we see Trump going through right now through the court system. All of this stuff is connected. All of this is about the destruction of Western values. But right now, I want to talk about wealth protection research and protecting your wealth. So at the very heart of our democracy lies a principle that we hold sacred, and that is free speech. It's the cornerstone that supports every freedom we cherish. Yet in today's digital age, discussions about our wealth, our rights, and our future are being silenced or overshadowed in mainstream narratives, that leaving many people are leaving many people feeling voiceless in conversations that are crucial to our financial independence and security. This is where wealth protection research steps in, armed with a mission that's never been more critical. Wealth Protection Research is not a financial advisory firm. They are defenders of free speech, committed to giving a voice to the silence. Wealth Protection Research tirelessly seeks out financial experts. These are the voices that challenge prevailing narratives, especially as we navigate the uncertainties of the 2024 election. Wealth Protection Research has created a 2024 Election Wealth Protection Report. This free report highlights the 3 best ideas for protecting and growing your money heading into the 2024 election. And oh my God, do we need it? It contains ideas the mainstream media won't touch, and listeners can get it completely free. All you have to do is text the word ideas, IDEAS, to 76626 to claim your free copy. If you believe in the sanctity of free speech and the importance of financial freedom, then act now. Text ideas, IDEAS, to 76626 to claim your free copy of this 2024 Election Protection Report. It's time to widen the scope of what we're told, to hear the ideas the establishment does not think you can handle, and to take control of our financial destinies. Text ideas to 76626 to claim your free copy. All right. Now, let I go here. All right. So let me just give you a let me just give you a quick rundown of some of the things that are on the tip sheet, and I'll offer any breaking news that might be happening as well. The big stories of today. Obviously, there's an attempt by Marjorie Taylor Greene and now Representative Thomas Massie to oust Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. I'm going to take a different view on this. I'm not mad at them. I don't think it's a good idea to do right now. Let me say that. But I'm not mad at them. A lot of people on the right are absolutely outraged. But let me share this point of view that I shared on a radio show this morning with Pastor Alex Bryan in Springfield, Missouri. And I'm not mad at these people at all. Could you imagine being in Congress and you're there to try and make sure that Americans are free, we follow the Constitution, so on, etc. And it's always political gamesmanship. I understand that how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? I get all that, but we're in a post-constitutional America. And again, I want to make it clear that I don't agree with the timing of what Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie are proposing, and that is vacating the speakership once again, because I do believe that'll send us in some type of disarray because we just have too many rhinos in Washington, D.C., but I'm not mad at them. These people have gone to Washington, D.C., and they're some of the most faithful. Whether you like them or not, you can say it's gamesmanship. You can say that they're just trying to put on a show. Well, part of Washington, D.C. is political theater, but we also know by their voting records and the things that they've stood up for that they are fighters. So imagine going to Washington, D.C. and realizing that you're surrounded by a bunch of rhinos, but where 95% of your conference are a bunch of rhinos that really don't want to get anything done. All they want to do is get reelected. So imagine the frustration you must feel when you say, hey, I've come to Washington, D.C. to stop the spending, right? To stop the whatever it may be. And your colleagues aren't on board with you. I'd imagine at some point you get so frustrated and you say, all right, forget this stuff. I'm going to throw a bomb up in this mix. And I feel like that's exactly what they're doing. So is it the right time? No, I think it was a mistake. I know a lot of Republicans are too cowardice to say it, but I think it was a mistake to get rid of Kevin McCarthy. I think Representative Matt Gaetz, and I love Representative Matt Gaetz, but he made a bad decision in getting rid of Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy, by all accounts, in my opinion, was a rhino, but at least he was an effective speaker that was moving the needle slowly but surely. Chip Roy had said, listen, we had Speaker Kevin McCarthy where we wanted him, where we could use some leverage against him. And if he didn't do what we wanted, we could have built the case and we could have got a new speaker that was just as effective, but more conservative. That didn't happen. Representative Matt Gaetz wanted to blow that up. A lot of you want to kiss his butt for that. I love Representative Matt Gaetz. I'd vote for Representative Matt Gaetz. He's in Florida, just like I'm in Florida, even though he's not my congressman. But I love him that much, or at least the work that he does. But let's face it, With the allegations are the only reason he got rid of Speaker McCarthy is because he was sleeping with an underage girl, and there was an ethics complaint or ethics investigation going on in Congress. Kevin McCarthy wouldn't blow that up, so that's why we are where we are, allegedly. But having said that, I'm not impressed by Speaker Mike Johnson. These people control the purse. I think you should leverage the purse for all of it, all that it's worth. I understand that you have, several rhinos in the conference that are going to apply pressure to and say, well, I'm in this district. You have a duty as speaker. You have to figure out how to keep your conference together. Kevin McCarthy was able to do that much better than Speaker Johnson is, and I don't necessarily fault Speaker Johnson for that. He's just not the man for this position. However, for now, he's going to have to be. Democrats get in. Obviously, they can do a lot of damage. But I got to tell you, you think of Marjorie Taylor Greene, you think of Thomas Massie, and they might be saying, well, heck, we're not getting anything done anyway. So why not let the Democrats take the heat? I could understand that line of thinking. I'm not saying that is what they're thinking, but I could certainly understand it. So I'm not mad at them. Disagree with the timing. I think Mike Johnson needs to stay, unfortunately. But I'm not mad at Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm not mad at Thomas Massie. And so I'm not going to pile on. All right. Now, let me move on from that. What else do we have on the tip sheet? All right. So the House delivers impeachment articles against Alejandro Mayorkas. So they transitioned the articles of impeachment from the House to the Senate. I believe this occurred yesterday. Yes, it did. So the House of Representatives, this according to townhall.com, formally delivered the articles of impeachment against Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to the Senate as the fate of a trial remains uncertain amid Democrat attempts at upending tradition and constitutional duty. Actually, as of this morning, it sounded like they were having a trial. I was absolutely shocked. Let me see if I can see something on that, but I'll just read from the tip sheet for now. So that remains uncertain among Democrat attempts at upending tradition and constitutional duty. The House narrowly cleared the Mayorkas impeachment articles for high crimes and misdemeanors in a 214 to 213 vote held in February. It took Mayorkas multiple years and countless press conferences, congressional hearings, and media interviews to finally admit last week that what is going on in the border is, in fact, a crisis. And he's only doing that because it's an election year, and the left feels like perhaps, at least for this cycle, they have enough illegals that they've allowed to take into the country or bring into the country to replace you. And yes, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy fact. That's exactly what they're doing. They're bringing in people to replace you, and sadly, it is working. Another point of story I think is really important. The Supreme Court listens to. I'm going to go into this at a later podcast, but the Supreme Court listens to oral arguments about January 6th protesters and charges, prison sentences. So legal experts said that the Biden administration was quote unquote on the ropes in Tuesday's oral arguments at the Supreme Court. In a case questioning whether a January 6th rioter can be charged with a federal obstruction crime, which carries implications for former President Donald Trump. All right, so on Tuesday, Jeffrey Green, lawyer for Joseph Fisher, who is one of the more than 300 people that have been charged by the DOJ with, quote, obstruction of an official proceeding, close quote, in the J6 2021 riot, argued that the federal statute shouldn't apply and that it had only ever been applied to evidence tampering cases. So, and Supreme Court Justice Gorsuch nuked Joe Biden's DOJ over January 6 sentences. Gorsuch listed multiple cases of folks who obstructed a congressional proceeding, quote unquote, without receiving 20-year sentence. Sit-ins at a trial, Kavanaugh pulling a fire alarm, Representative Bowman, hecklers in the crowd, Palestine, mostly peaceful protests, BLM. So he mentioned all these, and obviously what he's showing is the left will create law when it comes to people on the right, and then they'll just totally ignore when their constituents do it, or they won't apply law. Maybe is a more correct way to say it. So it's interesting, but I'm going to dive into that. That'll be my next podcast because I want to talk about the deep state and get into that a little more, and hopefully Hopefully, these J6 protesters will get some lightened sentences. I understand that they could get, the left being who they are, will just out of the cruelness of their heart say, well, we'll figure out a way to keep them in prison for just as long. That is a possibility, but hopefully, if the Supreme Court weighs in, somehow they'll get an appeal and that can be overturned. All right, let me go to the next story. Illegal immigrants in New York City crowd outside of City Hall to protest green cards and living conditions. So you have a bunch of ingrates that have busted into our country. Now you have the New York City officials are continuing their demands that the Biden administration and Governor Kathy Hochul do more to help with the city's migrant crisis. All right. And I'm calling it a legal alien crisis. A New York City committee hearing, officially titled The Experience of Black Migrants in New York City. Oh my God, was held on Tuesday to address the migrant crisis currently plaguing the city, specifically in regards to the high influx of Africans arriving and in need of housing and other government services. The hours-long hearing was also rife with accusations that African illegals are given worse treatment than their Spanish-speaking counterparts. All right, so I guess the liberals in New York are racist against blacks. This from the New York Post. About 1,300 African migrants gathered outside City Hall Tuesday morning, hoping to appear at a hearing on the black experience in the city shelter system, with some, not the illegal alien system when you're totally overwhelming our system, but the black experience. They certainly learned that from the left, didn't they? This is insane. Blacks experience from the city shelter system, with some saying they were promised work visas or green cards if they showed. Only 250 people were allowed inside for the hearing, while the hundreds of others who flocked downtown were left outside in a park where footage showed them chanting and cheering. Well, here's a chant and cheer. Take your butt home. That's my chant and cheer. How do you like that chant and cheer, Gabe? I think that's a pretty good one. That's my opinion. All right. U.S. to impose new sanctions on Iran, and we're going to be getting into this Biden's proxy war against Israel in just a sec. But let me just finish bringing you the news. The U.S. will impose new sanctions on Iran's missile and drone program after the country's unprecedented attack on Israel over the weekend. That's music to my ears. The White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan announced yesterday. So Biden is urging Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to exercise military restraint. Now, for those of you that are watching on YouTube and Rumble, you'll get to see what I'm doing. But if I were Netanyahu and Biden told me to exercise military restraint for the sake of his reelection, that's basically what it's about, then this would be my conversation with Joe Biden. There you go. Good Lord. But in the economic sphere, the administration is demonstrating a willingness to retaliate against Iran. That's from Axios, a left-wing rag. I'm sorry. I don't buy into that at all. I think the Biden administration is doing the total opposite, and I'll share that with you in just a second. And then you have this news. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg is looking to hold former President Trump in contempt of court and hold him for 30 days in jail. If they did that, all right, I know a lot of other people have said this. I agree. If they did this, all this would do is embolden the former president even more. This case is a complete and utter joke. Again, you still have former President Donald Trump, and they're still, it looks like they're still getting jurors for that trial with no official charge. This is insane. And this is the weakest case of all the cases. You've already heard that. It shouldn't have been brought. A district attorney, county attorney, whatever he is, does not have the authority to bring a federal court case. I mean, this is insane. But this is what this is something that should be expelled right away. I honestly don't even understand why there isn't some type of magistrate that just says, no, this isn't happening. So the Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg filed a motion yesterday to hold Trump in contempt of court, claiming that he violated the gag order imposed upon him by publishing 3 social media posts relating to 2 known witnesses in his criminal trial, Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels. Bragg is urging Manhattan Judge Juan Merchant to also warn Trump that, quote unquote, future violations of the gag order can be punished not only with additional fines, but also with a term of incarceration of up to 30 days, close quote. So I guess you shouldn't be able to say that this is a fake hoax trial that should have never been brought. Now, screw you, Alvin Bragg. Trump should continue to talk. If they send him to jail, then they send him to jail. I think that will be an absolute disaster. I don't know the logistics of that with the Secret Service. A lot of people have spoken on that. I have no idea, just to be honest, how that would work, if that would work, if they would even try it. I heard one attorney this morning that says that won't happen because the juice isn't worth the squeeze. But I don't take the left. I mean, listen. Anything can happen, right? All right, so we'll see what happens. This is the latest on House Speaker Mike Johnson again is forging ahead with a plan to try to pass aid to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. That's been tied up in a political fight in Washington, but he will move the cost. But will the move cost him his job? Is what ABC is asking. So Speaker Mike Johnson does not back down from fringe GOP looking to oust him. And of course, ABC would say that someone that wants a speaker that is going to control spending, of course, they will call her fringe. All right. See, this is the difference between the left and the right. And I even heard and I like Brian Kilmeade, but I heard him say this. I went to an appointment this morning, listened to him on the way back and forth, and I heard a guest on that show compare AOC and MTG, and basically say they were both grandstanders. And I'm like, no, AOC is a communist. MTG isn't. MTG, you may disagree with her politics, you may disagree with her antics, but I don't think there's any. I think the woman loves the country. I think it's completely obvious that she loves the country, and she says what she means, and she means what she says. In fact, I would argue that there were times where I felt like MTG should have aligned with like the 20 that went against Kevin McCarthy back in the day and stuff like that, where she didn't do it. So I would argue there were times where she was practicing restraint where she shouldn't have been. But anyway, that's me. So anyway. Johnson's laid out a proposal to split the $95 billion foreign aid package passed by the Senate into 3 separate bills, one for each country, and a 4th bill loaded with conservative priorities. Johnson spoke with Biden on Monday before unveiling his plan to his conference, but Johnson's approach is already causing more rancor with the right flank of his party. All right, as a second member said Tuesday, he will join Marjorie Taylor Greene, and we all know that is Representative Thomas Massey. All right, so now let me get to why I believe that Biden is waging a proxy war against Israel, and frankly, I believe that Biden is waging a proxy war against Western values. But we're gonna go with Gabe. I asked Gabe, "What's the better title?" And so he thought it was that Biden is waging a proxy war against Israel. So if you don't like the title, make your comments known to Gabe no, just kidding. All right. So anyway, so I'll get into that. First, I want to talk to you about mypillow.com. And by the way, we did talk about this, Gabe and I. So mypillow.com right now has a $25 extravaganza. I'm going to look on mypillow.com. I'm going to use my own promo code, Carl, C-A-R-L, and I'm going to find me some type of cushion that I could set on this stool in the podcast room that will not hurt my butt. All right. So you might have heard that Mike Lindell, MyPillow, no longer have the support of their big box stores or shopping channels the way that they used to. They've been part of this cancel culture, so they want to pass the savings directly onto you by having a $25 extravaganza. When Mike started MyPillow, it was just a one-product company. With the help of his dedicated employees, they now have hundreds of products, so you may not even know about them. So to get the word out, I'm going to invite you, my listeners, to check out their $25 extravaganza. Right now, they've got a two-pack multi-use My Pillows for just $25. My Pillow sandals for $25. Their six-pack towel sets are $25. Brand new four-pack dish towels are $25. So for the first time ever, the premium My Pillows with all new Giza fabric are just $25. Orders over $75 will receive free shipping. All you have to do is go to mypillow.com, use the promo code Carl. I spell it C-A-R-L, not like the communist, Karl Marx, or you can call 800-858-0263. Again, that number, 800-858-0263. Use the promo code Carl, C-A-R-L. All right, so let's get into this. Let's go ahead and start rolling these videos. We're going to go through this relatively quickly, and I'm going to make the case that Biden has waged a proxy war against Israel. As a matter of fact, the title of this podcast is Biden's Proxy War Against Israel. So first off, I want to show you I believe that what Joe Biden has essentially done by being a weak leader, by not backing up our Western allies, and I'm speaking specifically in this case about Israel. In my opinion, he's fomented even more anti-Jewish sentiment. Guys, I'm sorry. There's no differentiation between anti-Israel and anti-Jewish. It's the same thing. If you don't believe that that Jews should have their own state, I'm sorry, you're an anti-Semite. For God's sakes, the mullahs of Iran are terrorists, and frankly, are the people of Iran don't want to be under their leadership, but because we'll give them no attention, that's where they remain. So hopefully, I pray that those people will be able to overturn the mullahs of Iran, and I pray that they will have freedom in Iran once again. But anyway, without any further ado, let's roll some of the videos, Gabe. I want you to understand the anti-Jewish sentiment that Joe Biden has fomented and what the left is willing to do to express that. They won't get anything done, but they're making people's lives miserable. I want to go to what they were doing by blocking bridges and roadways and making your lives miserable because Joe Biden won't do anything about it, nor will Democrat governors or mayors in some of these cities where these things are occurring. So let's go to any one of those videos, Gabe, and let's roll them.
You know traffic's bad when people are literally sitting on top of their cars and walking to the airport. Wow. Oh, there's a protest.
People are getting out of their cars and walking to the airport so they won't miss their flight.
That's annoying.
This is why. Do these people really believe? And look, I don't even know what they're doing with their cars. Gabe made a good point. Maybe somebody drove them there and so they're able to get out. Maybe some of them took Ubers and so they're able to get out. Because I don't understand how you would just be able to leave your car in the middle of the roadway. But I understand why you would. And these are the people. We can go ahead and cut it, Gabe. Oh, wait. No. Oh, these are people. Look at this. I didn't even see this part. Straight up walk into their. Now, I hope these people are. Listen. Whenever it's a blue city, I assume that people vote Democrat unless evidence proves otherwise. These lefties can't be helping their cause. I mean, honestly, nothing. I'm sure something would, but I can't think of anything that would make me more upset right now than to have to deal with that type of crap where you're trying to get somewhere you need to go and a bunch of left-wing radicals are sitting there blocking traffic. And all they're doing is bringing attention to themselves, whatever their cause may be. I've just learned that I really don't like their cause. I don't want to be a part of their cause because their cause is making my life absolutely miserable. Here's another one. This is San Francisco. This is the Golden Gate Bridge. People are stuck on a bridge because Stop the World for Gaza. Honestly, I'm sorry. I think this should be. I don't know if the Golden State Bridge is considered a state bridge or federal bridge. Either way, I think the penalty for standing and blocking traffic in the middle of a highway, the middle of a road, I think they should be significant. I think they should be a felony. And frankly, if you get hit by accident, I said by accident, all right, you shouldn't have been standing in the road. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm so sick and tired of this crap, man. You got a bunch of grown behind adults that act like kids. Just think of what the left is doing. They don't respect your time. It's all about them. They don't respect your life. It's all about, listen, I'm virtue signaling. This is my religion. I want you to see how righteous I am and how unrighteous you are. These people are complete judgmental narcissists or narcissistic morons. All right. And they're making life miserable for everyone. And I hope that as more people see this stuff, they will be turned off by the left. They're not doing anything. But what you can say is this is the hatred, in my opinion, that Joe Biden has allowed to foment and fester, or has fomented and allowed to fester inside of the United States because of his weak stance on our ally, our best Western ally or Middle Eastern ally, Israel. All right, so now I want to show you what happens. I know you guys saw this video. I don't know if I was going to play the video of the guy being stabbed in Australia. I don't think I can do it, Gabe. I'm too much of a wuss. I'm sorry. There was a pastor that was stabbed, a bishop that was stabbed a bishop that was stabbed in Australia 6 times. I got to be honest with you. Like, I got to brace myself. I'm just being real. All right. This is just me being transparent. I do not like watching people get hurt. Now, I'll admit I have a weak spot for ridiculousness, except when they have trans people on there lately. I turn it off immediately because that show would make me not think of politics and just laugh. And I always assume that the people live, and the vast majority of times they do. But this stuff is completely heinous. I don't know the motivation behind the attacks, but I have an idea. All right, and I think you do too. But anyway, that's pretty scary. But here's what I want to do. I want to play this young lady in Bakersfield, California. She's one of these woke protesters. Apparently, she's pro Hamas. And I'm sorry, if you're pro Palestinian, you're pro Hamas. Palestine does not exist. There's no such thing as a place called Palestine. It simply does not exist. And if you're not for our Western ally that are literally killing terrorists, and I'm sorry that innocent people that voted for Hamas are dying in the midst of it. I am sorry. I don't want to see any innocent people die. But my suggestion would be to not vote for terrorists that killed 1,200 Israelis so that you remain safe, like you were up until October 6th. That would be my suggestion. So let's go ahead and let's play this kook from Bakersfield, California. And I want to share something with you once we share this video. Let's go ahead and roll it, por favor, Gabe.
And I hope one day somebody brings the guillotine and kills all of you motherfuckers. You guys want to criminalize us with metal detectors? We'll see you at your house. We'll murder you.
Now, she's been arrested.
A deputy
not so
public
tough
defender
anymore.
entered not guilty pleas on Patel's behalf to 8 counts of threatening a public official and 10 counts of making terroristic threats. She's due back in court later this month.
Guys, this chick just ruined her life. Those are all felonies. All right. So even if she somehow walks, she's going to have a record. Right. Those are, it's California. All right. So, but I believe Bakersfield is a little more conservative, if I'm not mistaken, than many other parts. So she talked about murdering city council members. She did it publicly. The video is there. We all can watch it. So this was a girl that was talking tough. And this is the problem with the left. They don't experience consequences for their behavior. The people that are standing on the bridge and blocking your ability to be able to get home or get to work or get to wherever you need to go, they're not experiencing consequences. BLM, Antifa, these people don't experience the same type of consequences that the left makes the right feel, even inventing up law, unprecedented law in order to punish the right. But when they feel consequences, guess what? It's the way that people learn. And for some reason, we got away from that. Even those of us on the right that are willing to appease the left, and we shouldn't. Somebody threatens to take someone's life, lock them up. Let them spend some time in jail. Let them cry like that. I guarantee you, here's what I know will never, ever happen again from this chick Patel. She will never, ever, ever. First off, there'll be some type of injunction, but she'll never threaten anyone like that again. I guarantee it. All right. So that is deterrence. That is what that is. Speaking of deterrence, let me talk about Biden's proxy war against Israel. It's almost as if Biden is willing for Israel to be taken out. He doesn't understand the spiritual ramifications. He doesn't understand the geographical ramifications. He doesn't understand that if the Middle East goes into chaos, and guys, you call me a Neil, come with it. I really don't give a flip. All right. Here's what I do believe. I believe that a lot of people are ignorant on both the left and the right when it comes to the importance of just backing Israel and letting them take care of Hamas, because it is a spiritual battle as much as it is a practical battle. Okay, Carl, there you go, getting spiritual. You Christians, you're going to get us into all these wars. And no. I believe that I should follow the rule of law as a Christian. But here's what I do know. I think you're idiots when you don't understand your enemy. And here's what you have to understand about Islamists. They believe that America is the great Satan. They believe that Israel is the little Satan. So my idea, this might be a novel idea, is let the Israelis kill them there in the Middle East. So we don't have to bother with them. All right, easy enough. I mean, it's really simple for me. All right, so this was from the Post just a couple of days ago, and I wanted to get to it. I didn't then, so let me get to it now. It was written by Richard Goldberg. The epic fail of Biden's doctrine versus Iran. Absolutely no consequences to it. So here's a summary. Biden needs to face reality. Number one, his policies of appeasing Iran while waging political warfare against Israel led Tehran to conclude it could launch a missile attack on Israel and face no consequences. And that's exactly true. So Biden is holding Israel back while at the same time maintaining the United States and United Nations sanctions relief for Iran. So here's again. So Biden is trying to hold Israel back from defending itself while maintaining both United States and United Nations United Nations sanctions relief for Iran. How crazy is that? You're going to give the world's leading state sponsor of terror sanctions relief. So Trump had crushed that. Trump had made the mullahs of Iran poor. The people were feeling emboldened in Iran because the people aren't bad. It's their leaders. They were feeling emboldened in Iran, and now not so much. So he risked confirming the Ayatollah's calculation and guaranteeing a more dangerous future for America and our democratic allies. We already see that that's the case. So what the mullahs did over the weekend against Israel, that is an act of war, and I believe that Israel should be able to respond accordingly. So you have the first time in history that Iran attacked Israel directly. And normally what they do is they'll use these proxies, they'll use Hezbollah, they'll use Hamas, they'll use the proxies. But Biden is so weak, they're like, hey, man, homeboy is hooking us up with money. We have all this money that we can spend now, money that we wouldn't otherwise have had. If Trump were in office, so we can use this money because we believe that Israel's the little Satan and America is the great Satan. And since all that Americans just think of is, practical, and we think spiritual, what we can do is use this money, this money that was given us practically, right? We can use it to accomplish our spiritual ends, and that is the annihilation of the little Satan and the great Satan. That's the way that they think, whether you like it or not. That is the way that they think. So two questions that the writer says loom large. Number one, why did this happen? And two, what is to be done about it? And obviously, those are the two questions. So over the past 6 months, you've had Washington that has pressured Jerusalem not to escalate its escalate against Iran terror proxy in southern Lebanon, despite the daily launch of missiles, rockets, and drones that has forced towns across northern Israel to evacuate. And Biden seems to just be concerned about re-election and damn the Middle East, damn Israel. I mean, this is absolutely insane. Essentially, Biden is the one that financed. I mean, let's be real. Biden, this would not be possible were it not for a Biden administration. That's just true. The Houthis aren't even on our terrorist list. Did you know that? The writer says the same can be said for the near daily missile and drone attacks on the Red Sea by the Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen, where the U.S. won't even put them on a terror list, on an official terror list. So Biden has been appeasing Tehran with access and cash in hopes of incentivizing better behavior from Iran. But this is the problem. We assume that giving them money will change their minds on what they believe ideologically or spiritually and ideologically. All right. They're not going to give up their belief system. So a policy more commonly known as appeasement. That's all this is. This is straight up appeasement. It has not worked. It will not work. And you have the same rejects from the Biden administration that are now, from the Obama administration that are in the Biden administration that seem to believe this nonsense. And it is insane. All right. It's insane. So Biden doesn't enforce our oil sanctions against Iran. Did you know that? America today does not enforce its oil sanctions on Iran. So this allows Iranian crude to flow freely to China and other Asian destinations. So we're emboldening Iran. We're emboldening China. We're also emboldening Russia. I mean, this is insane because they're selling oil amongst each other. Just last month, Biden renewed um, a sanctions waiver, giving Iran access to 10 billion, upwards of $10 billion to be used as budget support. And you had what's that fool's name that gives the press conferences? Not KGP, but the other guy, military guy, basically saying, well, listen, we watch that money carefully and they're not using it for terrorist stuff. They're using it for humanitarian aid. BS. You're not watching anything. You don't know what they're using it for. They're not going to tell you what they're using it for. You had another idiot on the left that basically admitted, we know this is what Iran is going to do, with the money, but hey, I mean, we're going to continue these policies. I mean, because it's Iran. It's what they always do. So Biden's desperation for this renewed nuclear deal was never clearer than in October. And that's what October made clear, that Biden wanted to be cool with the mullahs of Iran and not necessarily with the Israelis. So this is just days after the Hamas massacre. Biden allowed the UN's missile embargo on Iran to expire. I mean, that's insane. Rather than work with European allies to trigger what's called the snapback of UN sanctions, a mechanism that was meant to restore all multilateral restrictions on Iran without a Russian or Chinese veto. I mean, the guy is fully in the pocket, it seems to me, of Iran. Iran has faced no consequences for their terrorist attack on Israel. The October 7th terrorist attack, despite years of funding, training, and arming Hamas, nothing is said of them hardly. It's almost as if Israel committed the October 7th attack against the people in Gaza, and it's insane. Iran hasn't faced consequences for directing missile attacks against Israel from Lebanon or missile attacks against the U.S. Navy. I mean, from Yemen, and these people have attacked our Navy ships, and we've done nothing about it. Listen, we shouldn't be in the region if you're not going to take care of business. I mean, it's as simple as that, because our soldiers are going to get killed, all right? And missile and drone attacks on both Israel and U.S. forces from Iraq and Syria, even after the murder of 3 American soldiers. So Biden is punishing Israel, essentially, but he's emboldening Iran. So Biden's public wrath in recent weeks, according to the columnist, has been aimed at Israel, pressuring Israel to halt its campaign to destroy Hamas in Gaza. Again, you guys know what I said I would do, and that is this: threatening a cutoff of U.S. support, doing nothing to stop Canada from halting arms sales, and emboldening Democrats in Congress to call for conditioning American aid. This is where we're at. Biden is making the world a more dangerous place because he's willing to cater to his base that hates Israel, that hates Jews. So in essence, what Biden has unleashed is a proxy war against Israel, and frankly, against a lot of Jewish people within the United States of America. I mean, that's just the case. All right. So now the mullahs know that there's going to be zero consequences for anything they do to Israel. I mean, Biden told Israel, consider it a victory that you were able to shoot down 300 with the help of the UK, France, and Saudi Arabia and Jordan. You were able to shoot down 300 missiles and drones that came to annihilate you. That's a win for Joe Biden. That's a win. I mean, that's just insanity. Those are some of the dumbest words, and I feel like I say this every week in regards to a Democrat, but those are some of the dumbest words that I think I've ever heard spoken. But this is why Robert Gates said that Biden has been wrong on every foreign policy issue, and this was a decade ago, right? Every foreign policy issue that he's been involved in, he's been wrong, and it continues. How do we stop this nonsense? How can it be stopped? All right. So if Biden has reported wants Israel to hold off on a military retaliation so he can pursue diplomatic options instead, here's what he could do. Here's what he won't do. And frankly, I don't think there should be any options like this. I believe that Iran should just bomb the bejeebers. I mean, Israel should bomb the bejeebers out of the mullahs, kill as many of them as possible. And I mean that with all of my heart. But he said, but if those options exclude economic and political costs for the regime, Biden will simply be putting lipstick on a policy of accommodation. And we know that's exactly what's going to happen. This is what should happen. This isn't what's going to happen. So, Lord willing, we are able to get Trump in 2024, and this will happen. So, immediately freeze the $10 billion made available to Iran through his own sanctions waiver, then through Biden's own sanction waiver. Money that's accessible right now in bank accounts in Iraq, Oman, and Europe. He should also order a crackdown on Chinese imports of Iranian crude. If he refuses, the Senate should finally vote on 2 House-passed bills that would force his hand on both of those matters. And then on the multilateral stage, the writer writes the White House should join with the UK, France, and Germany in triggering the snapback of UN sanctions and press Britain, Canada, and the EU to finally designate Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard as a terrorist organization. Why haven't we done that? Canada should be pressured to lift its arms embargo on Israel as well. Both the U.S. and Israel must recognize Iran carried out this attack despite a week of warnings from both countries. This is not a win. That's a national security failure, which should compel an immediate change in strategy. But it's not going to, sadly, with the Biden administration. Guys, the only way that this is going to end is that we get this fool out. Can you imagine if Biden stays in for another 4 years? Ted Cruz spoke on the subject. Here's what he had to say. He slammed Biden for Iran's unprecedented attack on Israel over the weekend, saying that the Biden administration paid for the missiles and drones that Iran used. That's what I've been saying all along. And he's absolutely right. He said, and I quote, "It was the first direct attack on Israel from Iran in history. And it is an extraordinary escalation of what has been going on. This tragically is a result of the Biden foreign policy of appeasement and the entire Democrat Party backing away from Israel and sending billions of dollars to Iran. And a very real sense, the missiles that Iran fired at Israel were paid for by the Biden administration." Actually, that wouldn't have been a bad title. The war against Israel, paid for by Biden. They did this in the midst of Iran funding. This is Senator Cruz, and I'm quoting him directly. They did this in the midst of Iran funding Hamas, funding Hezbollah, funding October 7th, and launching over 100 attacks on U.S. servicemen and women. That is insane. On October 7th, more than 1,200 Israelis were murdered. Ted Cruz says that included roughly 30 Americans who were murdered. We still have American hostages. We still have Israeli hostages. Not only that, we have 3 servicemen and women that Iranians have murdered, and there are more than 100 attacks. And what does the Biden administration keep doing? Shoveling cash to this theocratic lunatic Ayatollah. Biden's proxy war against Israel. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show. Again, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. Do not forget to support our sponsors, Mike Lindell, MyPillow.com. $25 extravaganza. Fellas, Mother's Day is coming up. Go shopping. Hey, Father's Day is coming up. Go shopping. $25 extravaganza. Use the promo code Carl at MyPillow.com or give them a call at 800-858-0263. And if you want to get your 2024 election wealth protection report, especially if Biden gets in again, good Lord, text the word IDEAS, IDEAS, to 76626. That's Wealth Protection Research. Get your 2024 election wealth protection report. Text the word IDEAS to 76626. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show. Until next time, do not grow weary doing good. God bless you.